Hey, wrestling fans. Welcome to One Winged Wrestling, where we help you navigate the complex world of pro wrestling, bringing you the best matches, world class wrestlers, and news you can count on. At One Wing Wrestling, we bring the elite to you. And yes, I am back after about a month hiatus. You all know why if you've listened to the last podcast or watched the last show. Um, but I'm back. It has been, and I'm gonna just talk a bit about where I've been the last month to start it off. We are gonna get into some wrestling today. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what I've watched over the last month, and I'm really gonna get into because the main reason for this show is a review of Smash Wrestling Super Showdown VIII, which happened in London, Ontario on August the 20th, this past Sunday. And I think it was the 20th. If I got, yeah, no, that's right. Dates are weird for me right now. Days of the week are weird for me right now. It has been a strange month. I'm going to tell you that much. We've been adjusting since Krishna passed, the whole family. It has been tough, tough, very, very tough. It's like someone put it to me in a very good way. It's like I don't open up to a lot of people in my life, to be quite frank. I like talking and I'll talk about almost anything, but people who are really close, like really close to me, I can count them on one hand easily. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that are like that, right? So when you lose one of those people that are part of that one hand, it's like someone literally came and lopped a chunk of you off, and you have to adjust your life to living without a piece of yourself. And that's really what this has been like, I think, for me anyway. And I think I can speak for chunks of the rest of the family too. I mean, there is a massive hole in the family, and we're all adjusting. Um, it also amazed me how many people I didn't even know this about him as well as I do now. How many people Krishna touched in his life, right? And he was just one of those people that was known by so many, loved by so many. His funeral had over 300 people at it. I was absolutely flabbergasted, blown away. Um, People from all walks of his life, all over. It was an amazing, amazing thing. The amount of support the family received was just outstandingly incredible. Huge. But in spite of all that, I mean, it's been tough to get past. It's been tough. And I've said that a couple times and I'll keep saying it because it's been tough. What? I found I also gained an appreciation for ceremony, I think. Because Krishna's Hindu and all the rituals that were around his death, his funeral, all that kind of stuff, they're all Hindu rituals. And I was one of the people who got to go down to the river to release his ashes. And I got to tell you, there is something really poignant and really spiritual about watching his ash. It was just a beautiful day outside in the middle of the river and seeing the ash flow down the river in a perfect, like 1 foot wide, 1.5 foot wide white line flowing with the current of the river. And it was just such a poignant symbol. It was a really cool moment. And I don't mean cool in like oh, it was cool, man. I mean, just it meant so much. It was deeply meaningful and spiritual to me because it was like really watching him pass on, knowing that now, he's truly gone, at least physically. Mentally, spiritually, he'll always be here. And that's really part of what I want to make sure happens going forward with this podcast. His spirit has to be here in some way, and I've thought about it. I don't know 100% what I'm going to do. Right? It's not easy to figure out where to go forward when the person that was your partner just isn't here anymore. But that said, he would definitely have wanted me to go on. He would definitely have wanted me to find a way to do this. And I will, because it honors him and it keeps, I mean, look, I love pro wrestling, always have. He loved it, and I know so many other people who love it. And I'm not going to stop expressing my love for professional wrestling because I think that that would have killed him in the sense that, like, spiritually. Um, because I know that if he had stopped, if I was gone, it would have really bothered me. So, yeah. So here we sit. I can't exactly say. I'm going to toss out some ideas at the end of the show about where we go from here. Um, and I'll talk a bit about that, what you can start to expect from the podcast going forward, because we were dead on you, a couple episodes a week, all the time. I mean, if there's one thing Christian and I had, it was consistency, and I want to bring that back to the table in a big way. But what it looks like, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I don't know 100% yet, but we'll talk. Anyway, I do want to get into some professional wrestling on this show. It has been a while since I talked with you guys about wrestling. So, you know, I am going to talk to you a bit right out of the gate about AEW, because I have been keeping up with the product to a certain extent. I got to say, I haven't watched as much wrestling in the last month. It was a little tough to start watching, to be quite honest, but I did watch Dynamite every Wednesday night, no matter how hard it was. And yeah, so I've seen every Dynamite. I've seen bits and pieces of Collision and Rampage here and there, seen some summaries. I've listened to review podcasts, that kind of stuff too. So I know what's going on. Stardom I need to catch up on. I have not gotten into as much of that as I could. I mean, I think what hit me was the pay-per-view that was out that exact weekend, the very next day after Krishna passed, was the first one he was going to watch with me. And so that was tough. And so I haven't watched any of the 5-star Grand Prix, but I also do not know what happened, because I have been purposefully avoiding any Stardom news, because I'm going to sit down and blow my way through this whole tournament very, very soon. I am feeling the itch to watch it again. So that's a good thing. And of course, I got to go and see Super Showdown VIII, and we'll talk more about that after I talk a little bit about where I'm at with AEW. And one quick point, I mean, it's going to be weird that I start here, but hey, yesterday I was at my sister-in-law's place. We've been spending a lot of time there, Krishna's mom, and her husband, Krishna's stepfather, watches Monday Night Raw every week. And yesterday just happened to be Monday. I sat through 2 hours and I would guess 40 minutes. We left just before Raw was done, right before the main event started. So something like that. But I saw that part of Raw, and I've heard what happened in the main event. And I got to say, I don't feel like I'm missing out not watching Raw. There was a lot of time. This was my impression. So I know, look, WWE is hugely popular right now, and its popularity is growing. I get it. Okay. But I honestly, I can't see myself watching this show. I know there's so much wrestling out there that's so great, but this was just okay. I can't say it totally sucked either. It was just there. There was lots of time, but not really a lot happens. There was a lot of talking and a lot of backstage stuff and a lot of drama. But you know what I really like on this show? It's the matches. So let's talk about a couple of the matches that I saw. I watched New Day versus Riddle and McIntyre. Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre. The match, kind of paint by numbers. It was a decent tag team match. I didn't hate it. It was okay. The wrestling was good. It didn't suck, but it was nothing I was going to write home about. It's not something that I went, oh man, yeah, there's a lot of talking or whatever on the show, but the quality of the wrestling, holy hell, I got to come back and watch. No, it wasn't that at all. It was, oh yeah, you fit in quite nicely with the rest of everything else around here. It's like the whole thing is a presentation. I don't know how else to put it. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that Matt Riddle just went through this exact same plot line with Randy Orton not that long ago. So I was just kind of like, are we getting anything new here? And I mean, speaking of new, the New Day, they're doing the same gimmick they've done for years now. There's nothing new about it. They're just the same guys. I don't know. I wasn't impressed. I was just kind of like, oh, well, that was a match. The other one I wanted to talk about, though, was Chad Gable versus Gunther. Now, this was a good match. This was my favorite match on the show. They wrestled like look, we're talking about two guys who are both great in the ring here, right? I mean, these are two of the best that WWE has in my mind for this kind of stuff. So yeah, okay, great match. Some deadlift German spots. There was a backdrop driver in that match. I was like, damn, nice job. But the end, what the hell was that end? he purposefully gets a count out on Gunther in a title match. Gable, where is your head? The end made absolutely no sense. The dude is going for a title. He can't win it on a count out, so he tries for a count out. What? And then he celebrates like he just won the universe. Like, hello? Why didn't you toss him back in the ring instead of over the barrier and run in the ring for the count out like an idiot? Like an idiot. So yeah, I just looked at that and went, you're really stupid. Really stupid. Yeah, and you're celebrating like you just won the universe. Okay, whatever. Like the ending made no sense and people were all happy that he won. I'm like, really? Really? Because this was a title match. He was going for the belt. The victory by countout doesn't matter at all. I get they're trying to set up probably for something down the road, but that's a terrible way to do it because it makes your baby face look like a moron. So yeah. Anyway, those were the two things I saw. There was a lot of talking stuff. Needless to say, I will not be watching Raw again in the near future unless I happen to be sitting with with Krishna's stepfather. I guess he would be my brother-in-law, watching Raw again some other night. But yeah. Anyway, AEW. I can't say I have been like massively happy with AEW either, but I haven't been massively sad. There's been some good, there's been some bad. Let's start off right away with like the most popular thing basically AEW has ever done, Adam Cole and MJF. Look, I know these two have had the highest rated segments. And when they started to get together, if you go back and listen to our episodes, hey, I love it. I loved it, right? I was all over this. They were doing a good job. The comedy spots, they were hitting, but they've gone down a path that I just can't follow them on because the humor went from like kind of spontaneous and funny to really scripted WWE style, ridiculous going out on the town segments and this kind of stuff, right? I was already getting over it. If you guys remember from the last about a month ago when Christian and I did our last Dynamite review, I was already getting over this stuff because I was just done. And it just only got worse, right? I mean, the Outback Steakhouse stuff last week, that was silly. I just like, really, Outback Steakhouse because your opponents are Australian? Really? Anyway, it was over the top ridiculous too. There would have been ways to do that could have been, I think, more entertaining, but they just went the really lowbrow, really silly. Like, I don't know. I just don't enjoy it. I know there's people out there who love this stuff. They eat it up. Not for me. Just not for me. And it's okay if you like it. I'm not saying you're wrong for liking it either. No sweat. Like it. Knock yourself out. Just not for me. And I'll criticize it because it's not for me. The Roderick Strong stuff, I was like at the beginning of it, I'm like, well, he's not wrong. Adam Cole has ditched his good friend of many years to go hang with MJF, who is a known, devil backstabber, right? He wasn't wrong, but it went from sympathetic to he started being like a cartoon version. Oh, wow, you don't hang out with me. And it's just like, what the hell happened here? He went from being this super sympathetic, his friend legit ditched him and he's concerned, and then he'll be proven right when MJF stabs Adam Cole in the back, to just this cartoon character. It was terrible. Like terrible. He's turned into a joke of his former self, and I hate it. I just hate it. I was hoping for better things from Roderick Strong, and he's just a joke now. I think the one good thing though that I actually liked about this, and no, it's not trampoline parks. I hated that too. But the one good thing I actually liked is when these guys cut serious promos like they did about both wanting to win the championship last week. I like that because when they actually get serious about their passion for wrestling and stuff, it shows that they are truly passionate about wrestling. When they're actually trying to build the match in a way that makes sense, and they're talking about their passion and they're talking about their wrestling and they're talking about, stories from their lives that fit in with their wrestling. So all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, so you guys are serious wrestlers. Okay, cool. We're going to get a decent match. And I am looking forward to seeing what they do with their match at Wembley. But I can't say I care. And I really hate the fact that they're probably going to beat Aussie Open for the ROH tag titles. That honestly, it makes me want to throw up inside because it's like Aussie Open are such a good team. They've been given this opportunity and they're going to have the belt stripped off them almost as soon as they got them. so that this comedy duo that is so over with the crowd can have any old tag titles on them, because they're not getting the ones that FTR and the Young Bucks have. Although, yes, we'll have to see what happens with that. Of Cash Wheeler, as we are aware, some of us, if you're not, he was arrested for, I guess it was assault with a weapon. He pulled a gun, apparently, allegedly, during a road rage incident in Florida. So he turned himself in. He's still allowed to travel. He can still go to London for Wembley. So I don't think that's going to affect the match, but that was a very unfortunate scenario involving one Cash Wheeler. So, um, yeah. Anyway, to get back on topic, we shall see what happens with Adam Cole and MJF. Jack Perry. Well, his heel persona is okay. I haven't hated it. It's not bad, but the whole program has been largely forgettable. I think because he's tied up with this FTW championship. I mean, I think he'd make a decent heel. There's a little something missing from him still, but hey, it's his first run, right? So, like, I'm willing to give him a lot of slack. He's still learning. He's still cutting his teeth on this. That's fine. Learn. But did he have to go with Jerry Lynn and RVD? I didn't like that stuff at all, right? I just found it so, like, are we really trying to say ECW had this big impact on guys like Jungle Boy Jack Perry? Like, I don't know. I don't really see it. I get the feeling influences on them came from elsewhere, but hey, if it works for the feud, whatever, right? It just, his match with RVD wasn't terrible. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It just fell in that category again, right? I don't know. It was okay. And that's kind of how I felt about that whole program. It was okay. Um, Jericho and Don Callis. Now, this I have really enjoyed. I've liked how Jericho has skated the line between, like, trying to still keep his appreciation society together, but slowly moving to the Don Callis side, right? And then even to the point where he's willing to accept joining, but then Callis is such a moron in a good way that he blows it and Jericho's not part of the Don Callis family. I've actually enjoyed that build up a lot. And I like where they took it because they took the month to do it. There's the meeting with the JAS and all this stuff. And, a bit of talking, but good talking. And now with the attack by Will Ospreay. And my God, when Will Ospreay showed up on Dynamite, I freaked out. I was like, okay, here we go. And, like, it's the interesting thing about the month that I've been somewhat absent from the product. It's interesting because I haven't kept as on top of all the news as I normally would have. And I had almost forgotten that Ospreay might be facing Jericho at Wembley. So it was a legit surprise for me when he showed up. I'm like, oh yeah, Ospreay. So yeah, it was very cool. And of course, one of the things that popped in my head immediately was Krishna would have loved this. And it's true, he would have, because, we're both big Ospreay marks. So yeah, it was great. I can't wait for their match. I mean, Ospreay versus Jericho, this should be good. I would have liked a little more build around, maybe not make it quite as sudden and have a little more build around, Ospreay and Jericho in New Japan, and talked a little more about that and made it, because they were heading towards such a big match at one point there. And I would have liked to have seen more of that, because I think it would have made their match more meaningful. And more story based, but this is okay. I'll take it because I'm going to enjoy the match. But I think that kind of bothers me a lot, is that a lot of the time we get these matches in AEW that I'm like, I would have loved more build, but I'll take it because the match will be good. I mean, the one thing I'll give AEW, and I noticed that watching Raw last night, is holy crap, the wrestling's better in AEW. Like, heads and tails, miles better. Like, I didn't see anything last night on Raw that made me go, holy crap. Right? Not a single thing, not a single moment. And there's always at least one of those on every AEW show. So, anyway, speaking of that, AR Fox. I loved the AR Fox turn. His stuff with Swerve, Darby, Nick Wayne, the invasion of the Buddy Wayne Academy. I have enjoyed all of that. I've enjoyed it a lot. I've liked the emotion in the promos, the whole Darby, like, never calling him part. And then Darby comes back with his response, which was because both of them were just so right. like you could see why AR Fox would be upset, but then you understand the story from Darby's point of view, and it's like, oh, so there's a lot more to this, right? And I like that, like the whole hinting that Fox like had a drug problem and this kind of stuff, right? It was just, I liked it. It felt a lot more real. It felt a lot more emotional to me. I've enjoyed the story. I wish Nick Wayne was in the match at Wembley. Because from what I've seen of him, he's like all the way back to when he's in Defy. I've really liked Nick Wayne. Um, but that's okay. I mean, the match we're getting is fine. I know they'd want Sting at Wembley, so that makes a lot of sense to me. Um, but yeah, it's been good stuff. The Elite with the and the Blackpool Combat Club. Now here's two groups that I have mostly enjoyed over the last month. Blood and Guts. Oh my god, that was good right until the end. I didn't like the finish, and that's why I was sitting there going, okay, wait a second. Like the match itself, I was enjoying it a lot right up until people started like Pac left and then Takeshita leaves, and now the BCC's outnumbered. Like, wait a second, aren't they the bad guys? And aren't people leaving? Isn't that like technically surrendering? I don't know. The ending I didn't love at all. I sat there looking at it going, well, not as good as last year's, that's for sure. Based on the ending, the match was fine. They did a lot. They worked hard, good spots, enjoyed it. But the ending, I was just like, what? Okay, fine. So, yeah. Two people leave, then the Blackpool Combat Club gets their comeuppance, I guess. So yeah, but I mean, it was a good end to the feud. I suppose the BCC had to lose, and one way to keep them strong is to have them lose in a 5-on-3 situation. So hey, I mean, I guess I can get it for the whole long-term booking. It's not as bad as some endings I've seen, but I still didn't love it. It left kind of a bad taste in my mouth that night. I do love that the Elite have signed long-term deals, though. Krishna would have been very happy about that. So they're with AEW for some time to come, which gives me a reason to keep watching AEW, and that's not a bad thing. I feel like the product is shifting a little more in a sports entertainment WWE-ish direction. I mean that, and God, I really hope they don't do another Vince Russo style episode like they did last week, where like every match has a run-in, every match has an attack. I mean, at least the match is finished in most cases, but my God, the interference, the run-ins, the attacks, the holy crap! It felt like I was watching, Raw. See what I mean? Dynamite on cocaine or something. It's like, holy crap, guys, can we slow down and not have 700 angles? Thanks. But yeah, that's fine. The only thing I didn't like about some of the stuff the Elite did was that Dynamite 200, where they had almost that completely wasted match with Jarrett Lethal and Singh. I didn't enjoy that match. I was bored. I didn't need to see it. There was no real reason for it. It was an excuse to get the Elite out there for Dynamite 200 against a team they could quite legitimately beat. So yeah, I didn't love it. But I mean, that said, there was a lot of matches that I did love, because a lot of what we do here on One Winged Wrestling is we talk about the matches that we love. That Orange Cassidy versus AR Fox match, man, did I love that match. Great. If I was to give you a quick rundown of the ones I really liked, Darby Allin, Swerve Strickland, fabulous match. These are the reasons I still watch AEW, in spite of the fact there's all this sports entertainment-y stuff around it. Three-way tag, Blackpool Combat Club versus Best Friends versus Lucha Bros. Man, I love that match. That match was great. And then Blackpool Combat Club against the Lucha Brothers, that was great. Mox versus Penta versus Trent, the Anything Goes match. Man, you put these guys together, and it's great. Like any combination of those three teams, and I'm all over it. I mean, John Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club have been one of the best things to happen to AEW all year. I have loved everything they're doing. They're probably my favorite faction in AEW right now. Love them so much. Their wrestling is great. Their attitude is great. Their approach is great. They don't mess around. They're my style of stable. Love the guys. Hikaru Shida capturing the women's championship. I mean, she's probably my favorite female wrestler on AEW, and I was so happy to see her get the championship. The match wasn't the absolute best, but it didn't suck either, and I enjoyed it, and it had a really cool outcome. I was surprised to see Hikaru Shida win the title, so that was very cool. And, just a quick shout out to the Hardys versus the Bucks match. The Bucks are just so damn good. I mean, that match started kind of slow, but man, the Bucks are just so good at like sort of moving teams through matches, even when they're a little older. And shout out to Jeff Hardy. He actually looked damn good in this match. And I think that like if he keeps up and stays clean, damn, he's got a good last run in him. You know what I mean? Like they could go for a bit. He's been hitting his moves better. He's been looking more confident. I've appreciated that. So good on him. And so there's been a lot of good stuff. I don't want to sit here and sound totally negative. It's very easy for me right now because I guess of where my mental headspace is at to be too negative about things. So I'm trying to be more positive and look for the good because in the matches, this is where it's good. The number of times I've sat watching Dynamite and gone, holy crap, or like some of the stuff the little bits here and there I've seen of Collision and Rampage, not as much as I should have or would have liked to, but but anyway, that's sort of where I'm at with AEW. But I want to turn now to our main event of the day, and that is the review of Smash Super Showdown 8. And normally I went to these events with Krishna and we would, go hang out, whole experience, blah, 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 right? This time I took Tristan, who is my nephew. He is younger than Krishna, and he is to Krishna as Krishna was to me. And so I'm kind of like the grandfather in a chain there, I guess would be a good way to put it. If Krishna was Obi-Wan and Tristan is Anakin, that would make me Yoda. Though I'm pretty sure most would dispute I'm anything like Yoda. But that said, it was Tristan and I that went. Tristan does not watch wrestling on TV. Okay. I would love to get him on the podcast to get his reaction. He's been on a couple episodes of another podcast that Krishna did called Who Asked, that talked more about comic books and gaming and that kind of stuff that you can find as well on the episodes are still around on any of your favorite podcast apps. So Tristan hasn't watched, but he's gone to live events before with us too, and he enjoys live wrestling. So this event, and I got to say, Sebastian Suave is one of the coolest guys on the planet. And this may bias my reviews, but I'm not going to let it. I'm always going to give an honest review of the products that I watch, and I'll tell you what I liked and what I didn't, in spite of the fact I think Sebastian is one of the coolest guys on the planet. He was very supportive after Krishna passed. And I just want to let you all know that he is a class act. Just to a level that you don't find in people. He doesn't know me that well, but he treated myself and the family with such respect and help and support, just in little ways, just in little messages and stuff. And I just wanted to say, I truly and deeply appreciate that. And it was one way that he was being supportive is, he offered to allow myself and a guest to come to the super show, Smash Super Showdown show in London, and I took Tristan. And so I just wanted to say thank you to Sebastian for that, because it meant a lot to myself and it meant a lot to Tristan. And I just wanted to let you all know what an absolute class guy he is. So that said, I promise you it will not bias my review, because there are things I like and there are things I might not, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm never, ever going to let how I feel about people personally affect my, well, I don't know if I call it professional, but my opinions of a product, shall we say. So anyway, let's get into Super Showdown. So this was a stacked card, right? This is basically Smash's version of, let's call it Smash's WrestleMania, or Smash's Wrestle Kingdom. Once a year, I think they do this. And it's a culmination of some plot lines sometimes, or just some really stacked matches. And that's what we got. It was held at the London Music Hall. I've never been to this venue before. It's an interesting venue. There's lots of space for people. Tristan and I had great sight lines to the ring, so it was quite good. The crowd is interesting. It's not quite the same as the Toronto crowd. There were a lot of kids there and a lot of people in WWE merchandise, which tells me that WWE and the popularity thereof is having a positive impact on other wrestling. And the fact that there were so many children, far more children than I see at the Toronto events. I don't know if that's typical to London or if that's just a sign that more and more kids are getting into professional wrestling again, which for me is a wonderful sign. I don't care what wrestling they're into, just get into wrestling. It's a good sign. So, hey, if the WWE's bloodline and all that stuff is getting kids back into wrestling, that's great. And they were loud, some of them. And the crowd was having a really good time at this show. They were incredibly loud. Probably the loudest Smash show I've been to, I'd have to say. It was good in terms of crowd noise. So, yeah, London, good job. Good crowd. So the show opened up with Psycho Mike coming out. I mean, he's in a title match later against Kevin Bennett, but he comes out to open the show and a little bit out of character, kind of in character, kind of out of character, because it was Sebastian Suave's birthday and they brought out a cake and everyone sang happy birthday to him. And yeah, it was kind of a cool little celebration for him. But the actual show opens up with Myung Jae Lee versus Zak Patterson. This, I've never seen either of these guys before. And I would like to see both of these guys again. This was a really good opening match. Lee is one of those high flyers who is just so good at it, right? Like his spots are dead on. He had a poison run at one point on Zak Patterson that just looked wicked as heck. He did a float over Canadian Destroyer. And I mean, for that, of course, you need both guys. Damn, was it cool. And Zak Patterson, he's one of those big, strong guys, and Lee's pretty little. So you got a lot of Zak Patterson using some strength moves. And he did an apron bomb at one point that looked like it broke Lee's back. It was just nuts. Yeah, I mean, Tristan's reaction was this. I mean, I wish I was able to get arrange so Tristan could have been on this show so you could get his reaction, because I'd love you guys to get like a first time Smash live wrestling reaction from him, because he was blown away by a lot of the spots in this match too. This came darn close to being my match of the night. Lee won it with a double foot stomp, diving double foot stomp on Patterson's back. And yeah, it was a very good match. Some back and forth. Both guys got to showcase their stuff. This just got me right into the show, right out of the gate. This is the kind of opening match you want on a show, and they almost stole the show. So great job, guys. You've got a couple new fans for both of you. So then we got Carter Mason taking on Amir Jordan. And Carter Mason, former King of the North, he and I had never seen Amir Jordan before, so this is my first time seeing him. This was a good match. Amir Jordan is quite agile. He's almost like he's got a bit of a gymnastic background somewhere, but yeah, he's quite agile. Carter Mason's smaller than him, but it was which is interesting. But Carter Mason's pretty quick too, and Carter Mason won the match with a belt shot after a ref bump, and then hit a thrust kick on Amir Jordan in front of the ref, so then he pinned him. So of course he had to cheat to win, because Jordan was naturally getting the better of him without cheating. Not a bad match. I mean, Mason had a nice tornado DDT spot. He does his tornado DDTs really well. Jordan did this really cool jump through the rope cutter at one point. And Mason has such a good aerial game, right? It's almost like, because he's playing heel, he has to keep it down, but he brings it out at good moments during matches, so it's not overdone. You don't think, hey, this guy's a really cool high flyer, but he's so good at it. I mean, if he had a face run and was able to showcase that side of his game more, wow, that'd be something else. But he just plays such a good heel. Anyway, yeah, this was a good match. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. I found Amir Jordan's aerial stuff was almost like it wasn't involved in actually hitting moves for the most part. He does a lot of dodging and rolling and moving, and I wanted to see more of him actually doing aerial movement, or it's more high flying, I guess, out of him. It was good though. I think this is me being nitpicky more than anything else. Solid stuff. Enjoyed the match. I'd like to see both of them again, of course. Then we got Jake Something versus Vaughn Vertigo. Like, what am I going to say about these guys? And Jake Something with Impact Wrestling now, he built like a brick wall. I mean, the dude is just so massive and so talented and quick and strong. And Vaughn Vertigo, this guy can move, as we know from previous podcasts, right? I mean, quick, little high flying guy, right? So this was really a big man versus little man match. And by little, I don't mean that little, just like, your typical high flyer. Um, very good. Very good. A lot of big spots. I mean, Jake something really executed a lot of big moves on Vaughn Vertigo. Vaughn Vertigo got a lot of high flying stuff in on him. There was one where he did like the over the top rope tope on Hero onto Jake something outside, which was just crazy. And his speed and his agility is amazing. Um, Jake something hit a power bomb. I swear you could have heard in the next county in the ring on Von Vertigo. And it was the kind of thing, dude. Tristan's reaction to that power bomb was just like, holy crap, right? Vaughn won the match with a roll up, which I think is the right way to beat Jake something as well. I mean, Vaughn is going off on his tour of Europe. It's good to have him go out on a win. I don't think Jake loses anything being pinned by a roll up, so that was cool. But what a great match! It was the story in this match was so good. I mean, Jake just kept dominating. Vaughn was trying everything to go at him, and Jake had an answer for it. Right, he would catch him and slam him, or stop him mid move, or Vaughn would get something going, and then like the second move into the chain, oh, Jake stopped him again with sheer strength. Right, it was such a good match for that, and it was like it's a standard story in wrestling, big man, little man, but these guys did it in such a way that it was just so entertaining and so good, and so many quality moves coming out of all of it, and interesting ways to counter Vaughn Vertigo. Like, I think that's something that we need to appreciate about Jake something in this match, was how good he was at creative counters to Vaughn Vertigo's high flying. And for me, that was just, it was so good. So good. Good enough that if I were to pick a wrestling match of the night, this is it. I mean, there's a couple of pretty cool title matches coming up on this card, but if I were just surely to pick the match that I enjoy the most as a wrestling match, it was this one. So for me, already, guys, we've got my match of the night. Doesn't necessarily mean we've got my moments of the night, but we have my match of the night. Next up was a Rumble match. Eliminations are only by pinfall or submission. Basically, it was a very fast Rumble. 10 participants, one comes in every minute, right? Last person left is the winner. And there were a number of people on this that debuted for Smash in this match. And the first guy out was Dan the Dad, who is now one of my all-time new favorite wrestlers because his gimmick is awesome. He is basically a dad. He comes out in a dad cap, which unfortunately, given my age, tends to be the kind of ball cap I wear all the time. He had a cup of coffee. I drink copious amounts of coffee. I'm like, if I was a wrestler, I would be Dan the Dad. So yeah, Tristan was like laughing too, because he knows. It's like, hey, that guy's like you. Anyway, yeah, so Dan the Dad came out. I absolutely love his gimmicks so much, and he's damn good in the ring too. So I appreciated that. This was kind of a comedy Rumble, which was also good. Next out was Kody Lane. I'd never seen him before either. He's from the southern states, bit of a flamingo gimmick, I guess. He was quite good. Bobby Orlando, CPA. His gimmick is, of course, being a CPA, but he comes out in a suit, takes the suit off to reveal a dress shirt under it. And then when he gets angry during the match, he'll open the dress shirt out to reveal yet another dress shirt under it. It's just, yeah, it was something else. It's the kind of comedy I enjoy because it's ridiculous and it fits the gimmick, but it doesn't stop the good wrestling. And it's not like talking on and on and on and on about, like, if he went out on the town for a night, I'd probably get bored of it. But the fact that he just does that in the ring, it's great. We also had Vikram Prashar, Jax Williams, Miley. Miley, by the way, got in the ring and she immediately eliminated Vikram Prashar. So that was great because nobody likes Vikram Prashar. Joe Demaro, the driver, Mick McGuire was in. Oh man, Mick McGuire, the brick house. He hit this like long delay vertical on Joe Demaro at one point. Pretty great. Then John Greed was the last person in, and John Greed had a hell of a match. It was just, he was strong. He was big. It's John Greed. The guy is massive. He eliminated McGuire with a diving splash, right? And then Jax with Tombstone by Greed, right? It was this huge Tombstone pile driver. Kody Lane was then eliminated with a pile driver. Then Lane got eliminated by Miley for her second elimination with her twisting neck breaker. But then Miley gets nailed by Joe Demaro with a roll up and eliminated. But that was not all for Miley on the night, as we will find out later. She was the hardest working person on this show. Okay. Now, I don't necessarily mean full on wrestling, but she wrestled well in this match. She had her spots and she fit right in with the other 9 guys in this match, right? So she was a good add to this match. I enjoyed her stuff here. But man, when we get to her stuff in the tag team title match later as Books and Looks' manager, oh Miley, I know you woke up sore the next day, but we'll talk about that later. Greed then gets eliminated with a top rope elbow from Orlando. So they worked him over for a while. Like they all worked together to take down Greed, the guys that were left. But what ends up happening, of course, is Driver then tosses Orlando and then steals the pin. And then Dan the Dad eliminates Orlando with what essentially looked like a reverse beach break. Sorry if I didn't fully catch the move. It's hard to take notes on the fly, you know that? On a phone while you're trying to watch the match. So anyway, Driver, though, it was left with the driver Joe Demaro taking on Dan the Dad, and I was very sad when the driver hit an implant DDT on Dan the Dad and pinned him for the final 3, and Joe Demaro won the Rumble. I really enjoyed this match. This match was great. I mean, part of it was the comedy. Part of it was just, they had the spots were so good, right? Like the driver, he was just like this like sneaky kind of sleazy dude getting pins, only coming in when he had to and stuff, right? Like everyone had their spots too. Everyone got a moment. Everyone got a chance to shine. Great kind of Rumble, right? And even Miley had, I think, the most pinfalls. Maybe not. Maybe I don't know. I have to go back and count. But John Greed got quite a few too. But between Miley and Greed eliminated, if you combine the two of them, they eliminated, I think, over half of the competitors. But so that's kind of cool. Yeah, John Greed is something else. I mean, the fact that he can do the fact that he did a dive to the outside, and this man is massive. If you've seen John Greed, he is massive, and he did a dive to the outside and a top rope splash. So yeah, good on you, Greed. Don't hurt yourself because we really like you and we'd like you to come back to lots of matches. I still remember the one you did against Vaughn Vertigo that was just so good. Anyway, that's when we had our first break. And unfortunately, Silesia, who was the Silesia Sparks, who was the new Smash Women's Champion, is injured. So the title was vacated, and Shazza McKenzie, Australian, was there, and she was supposed to fight Silesia Sparks, but of course could not. So the title was vacated, and she took on Dream Girl Ellie from Florida, who was a surprise entrant today. So they were fighting for the vacant Smash Women's Championship. This was a good match. I enjoyed it. I had never seen either one of these women before live, and both are quite good. I was impressed with their moves. Shazza McKenzie at one point. This was another spot that Tristan highlighted to me after. Shazza hit Dream Girl Ellie with a series of kicks in the chest that you could hear from where we were sitting. And he was just like, ow. Because you could, like, they were echoing. So it was pretty cool. Ellie won the match with an underhook pile driver. Both of them have great movesets. I enjoyed watching this match a lot. There was a kneeling German suplex at one point by Ellie that I was like, how do you get the leverage to do that properly? It was very cool. But she nailed it. And yeah, I really like Dream Girl Ellie. I think she has a great personality for holding the championship. She's got enough of kind of like a good kind of solid face style attitude, but with enough of kind of like real determination to her. I don't know how to describe it. It's just she's very you believe her. There's a lot of heart. And I like that. Like that makes her a really good face champion. And I think that it could be a very interesting title run. I'm hoping to see more of her in the near future. Then we got into our first of the two other title matches on the night. We had Books and Looks taking on Tabarnak de Team in a tables elimination match for the tag championship. This was, this was not going to be a wrestling match. This was a brawl. This was a brawl from basically the start to the finish. Insane spots. I really hope they put this one up on YouTube for you guys, because I mean, it's the kind of, this isn't what I call a wrestling match. This is what I call a brawl spectacle, right? This is why I said earlier that if I was going to pick a match of the night, it's Jake something versus Vaughn Vertigo, because this is more brawl spectacle. I had a lot of fun watching it, but this is not what I'd call a wrestling match. Jacques was out first on a splash to the floor through the table. This was wicked. I mean, I didn't see any mats around the ring. Now, hey, I wasn't close enough to see if there were but it looked like the ring was just on the floor. And the table was set up outside, and he went through the table to the floor with, as far as I'm aware, no mats. Ow. That's all I have to say. Ow. Before that, though, they put Miley, because Miley was interfering in the match, and Tabarnak de Team, the first table break went to Miley as she was double power bombed through the table. And I was like, ow, she's going to be sore in the morning. But you think that was it, because she got up and kept helping her guys. And, God bless this woman. Because the final, before I get to the end, Books was taken out by a power slam into a table. You had this, and of course, because it's no DQ, it didn't mean the partners left. Partners kept fighting. They were just technically eliminated, but there's no DQ. So it's not like they went to the back or anything. They just kept fighting with their team. So it remained a tornado tag tables match, essentially, in spite of the fact guys were eliminated. You just had to put each guy through tables. There was a coast to coast at one point that Books and Looks did on Tabarnak de Team. They put garbage cans against both guys, and they each did the top rope coast to coast into the cans. What a great spot. I mean, both these guys clear across the ring, nailed the drop kicks, perfectly done in sync. It was so cool. It was a long outside the ring brawl by the merch tables. It was hard to see that from where I was sitting, so I didn't get to see that till they put it much up on the screen, because I mean, everyone gets up and crowds around, and by the time I react, it's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to see anything even if I go over there. So I just watched from where I was, but yeah, it was cool. It ended with Looks being put through a table in the corner, set up in the corner. Miley tried to stop it and ended up being behind Looks, and both of them were put through the table at the same time, with Miley being in the back spot, which, as far as I'm aware, is the worst spot to be in if you're going to be two people being put through a table. If I'm wrong, someone please correct me. But as far as I know, that's even worse. So she took Looks on top of her as she was put through a table for the second time in the same match. Miley, I hope you're completely fine. I hope your back feels okay. It's been 2 days since the event. Ow. All I have to say is I admire the hell out of you. Wow. Wow. Hardest working person on the show. I don't think anyone took worse bumps than her all night. Anyway, yeah, Tristan and I had a hell of a lot of fun in this match. This match was so much fun. Entertaining, just brawl stuff happening 100 miles an hour, right? It was well put together. Everybody got shots in. We got some pretty cool moves from both teams. I love Tabarnak de Team. They make such a good tag. I was cheering for Books and Looks because I love these guys. But hey, Tabarnak de Team are now your Smash Wrestling Tag Champions, and they're very good, and I look forward to their defenses. So yeah, I can't wait to see who they're going to be going up against. Should be good stuff. So yeah, if I had to pick a spectacle match of the night, this would be it. I really enjoyed this. This could have been the main event on the show for that reason. Crowd was hugely into this. There were dueling chants between Books and Looks and Tabarnak de Team. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Loud crowd, great match. Loved it. Highly right. This goes up on YouTube. Watch it. If I had to pick matches right now to go up and watch on YouTube, it would be the Lee versus Patterson, Jake something Vaughn Vertigo, the Rumble match just for fun. I mean, do you know what? Watch the whole show because I can't say there's a bad match on this show. I mean, I'm really just like picking the 1As to the 1Bs doing that. So forget it. Just go watch the whole show. Anyway, we then went to the main event, which was Kevin Bennett, the champion, the longest reigning champion in Smash Wrestling history, taking on Psycho Mike for the Smash Championship in a steel cage. The crowd set off the noise alert on my watch. They were so loud for this match. Loud, like super loud, chanting for Psycho Mike. Way over, like super, super over. Kevin Bennett, super over as a heel, right? I mean, I love Kevin Bennett so much. I love Psycho Mike so much. Kevin Bennett plays his character to perfection. Psycho Mike is Psycho Mike. What more can you say? He's one of the greatest guys on the independent circuit, in my mind. He may not be the absolute best wrestler, but he's very, very good in the ring. But his character, how can you not love the guy? Anyway, now that said, I found the start of this match a little slow. And I know they were building up to the end, and then they did a good job. I got to say, the build made sense. But for me, it did start a little slow. I think I might have been on a bit of a hangover from the tables match. And I was just kind of like, okay, it started slow. Psycho Mike smashed Kevin Bennett's head into the cage like 21 times. It was a cool spot, but I was just kind of like, they weren't doing a lot. There was a lot of kind of back and forth and not much happening and a bit of feeling each other out. There was a long chin lock spot near the beginning. And then Psycho Mike hit 4 body slams, right? I mean, you'd assume he'd be able to pin him after that. It is ostensibly one of his finishing moves, but he didn't. But then it picked up. So after that, there was a bit of the slow start that built up a bit. When they got into the near fall spots, this match really ramped and the crowd was going nuts, right? And I should point out during this spot that I found a little slow, the crowd was still hot as hell, right? So no one was really worried about it. Big near falls from Mike. There was like there was a really good what was it, a pile driver after Bennett missed a swanton. Bennett with a near fall with a diving cutter at one point. There was a superplex into the ring, like Psycho Mike superplex. Bennett tried to escape the ring over even though escaping the ring does nothing, right? It's not, you can't escape the ring to win this, but he went over the ring and Psycho Mike caught him and then superplexed him into the ring over the cage, like over the top of the cage. Crazy spot. And then hit a fisherman buster but only got a near fall. It was very cool. Of course, Bennett's cronies tried to interfere. They couldn't get into the cage. They looked for a way to get in and couldn't. They were trying to climb the cage at one point and were bounced off of it. Bennett, though, at one point, this was a huge, he hits a low blow, nails the remix springboard cutter for a near fall. I mean, when he hit that move sequence, right, and the crowd bit, they thought this was done, right? And when Psycho Mike kicked out, the crowd went nuts. Then Mike hits an inside out lariat, his spinning kick, and then a fisherman buster for a huge near fall. I mean, this again, the crowd bid on this one because he came back from that and hit this sequence. Great sequence. Like I bid on that too. I'm like, oh, he's got him. Nope. But of course, you can't have him win with a fisherman buster. You know what Psycho Mike needs to win the match with. So after he got the near fall on that, he picks up Bennett, nails the body slam. 1, 2, 3. And streamers rain down into the ring, and Psycho Mike is your new Smash Wrestling champion. Good match at the end. Really enjoyed it. Once they ramped it up, like I said, a little slow at the start. I was like, guys, pick it up just a little, please. But I understood where they were going. They worked their asses off at the end of that match. So many good near falls. They really, and they got me to bite. So if I'm biting, I think that's a good sign. Great. I actually at the end I was like, who is going to win this match? Because I went into it thinking Psycho Mike was getting the championship for sure, but Bennett had enough like good solid near falls, bit of interference. Like, are they going to keep the title on him? So yeah, it was good enough that I was sucked into the story. And That's what I love. I love not knowing. I love being like, oh, is that going to be the fall? Is that going to be the fall? Right? Like it's so much fun. So I had a great time. Tristan loved the match too. We talked about it after. He loved the tables match. He also, like, in terms of pure wrestling, he was with me on the Jake something versus Vaughn Vertigo and Lee versus Patterson. We both loved the Rumble match. It was such a good show, and it was a great way to get back into, live wrestling again, watching wrestling. I mean, it was totally worth the drive to London. I suspect Tristan and I talked about it after. I suspect we will be going back to London again. Great wrestling town. I had no idea. I was born in London. I only lived there a year, but I was born in London, Ontario. So yeah, great little town. Town, it's a city. Anyway, yeah, this event totally worth seeing. If matches get put up on YouTube, by all means, go check them out. In fact, if I notice they go up, I'll try to let you guys know, because this was some really great stuff. They have some events going on for Smash at the Fall Fair in London. I think they're doing something like 10 straight days of wrestling matches there, and then one big event, something like that. They said it pretty quickly during the show, so we'll find out more, and I'll keep you guys posted. I will be absent for a while. We the whole family, well before Krishna passed, booked trips to the Dominican Republic to celebrate Krishna's mom's milestone birthday. Not going to say how old she is. I'm a gentleman. Milestone birthday. And of course, this was before none of us were smart enough to book trip insurance. So we have to go. And as has been discussed, Krishna would have been mad at us if we didn't. I'm not sure what it's going to look like going on an all-inclusive vacation under the circumstances, but we're going to try and enjoy ourselves in spite of that. Hey, it might be just what we need, a break from being around all the stuff here and the memories, right? But we'll find out. Anyway, so I will be gone for a little over a week, but I'm going to use a good chunk of that week to catch up on some wrestling, because I am not an all-inclusive beach vacation kind of guy. Can I enjoy them? Yes, but I do take them as opportunities to relax, read, catch up on some wrestling, that kind of stuff. Because in case all of you hadn't noticed, I'm not really a party guy. So, but I do enjoy swimming too, and it'll be fun. So, and hey, we've got All In at Wembley during that time too, and I am planning on checking that out while I am in the Dominican. So I will be bringing means to watch these things. That brings me then to the end, where I want to talk to you a little bit about where am I going? Well, I don't totally know yet, but I'm going to tell you something. I love indie wrestling. I love going to Smash shows. I love watching shows, like indie shows on, I guess IWTV. Is it? No, I've got Fight Plus. Yeah, on Fight Plus. I got a lot of indies, GCW and some other stuff on Fight Plus. Great stuff. Great stuff. I think I may concentrate a little more in that area. I'm probably going to be doing a weekly Stardom show where I will talk about ongoing storylines and the, say, top 5 or 10 matches I think you should check out from that week's batch of matches, so that for people who don't have the time to, say, watch every Stardom match like some psychos like me like to do, what can you pick and choose from? What are my recommendations for matches you could check out, and what's going on with the storylines? Let's keep up on the stories, because I think part of watching Stardom as well is, in what makes it tough, is it's tough to put everything together into the stories. I mean, we are talking about people speaking Japanese. For some of us over here in the West, that is not always easy to get through, right? You don't always know what they're saying. And, for some pay-per-views and stuff, they're not subtitled. And, press conferences aren't always subtitled. So, but I've become quite savvy at finding translations and stuff. So, and I'm slowly learning Japanese myself. But anyway, so I will definitely be doing something to do with Stardom, because, as Christian and I used to joke, I can't do a show without mentioning Stardom in some capacity. I'm going to be doing more in indie wrestling, and yes, I will still be keeping up with AEW. Maybe not to the extent we were before. It is not the love for me that it was for Krishna. I love it, but not to. It'll probably be keeping up with certain wrestlers and matches. I'll be watching Dynamite every week still. I'll be checking out selected matches in other places, but there's only so much wrestling I can watch in a week and still keep the rest of my life going. If this became my full-time job, yeah, I'd probably do it all, but it's not. So there's only so much I can do, and I have to pick and choose. And I want to start trying to find, maybe some guests. I think having some guests on would be very cool. Um, so I'd like to expand out in that direction as well. Find ways to have guests. I'd love to be able to do some interviews. I love interviewing people. It is so much fun. I did I've I used to do interviews in other lives. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love the rapport. I love questioning. I love probing. I love, not in bad ways, just like getting conversations going with people. It's so much fun. So I'd love to get into more of that too, but we shall see. Um, like I said, it'll be a little over a week before you hear from me again. But we're back, and I don't plan to go anywhere for quite some time. So, as the great one always says, goodbye, everybody, and good night. Bang.